Hey, Blake T. Wild here, and I am returning to a fan favorite series on the channel, Ultimate Spider-Man. I put it up to a vote, and the overwhelming majority voted for Ultimate Spider-Man. Honestly, I thought it was going to be a lot closer than that, but nope, you really wanted to see Ultimate Spider-Man, so here we are. And just like my last Ultimate Spider-Man video, I'm going to be separating these up into two videos. There's about 12 issues in this volume, and I'm going to be splitting them up between each 6 because these storylines are just so conflicting between emotions and the stories that are being told. It is ridiculous. But you're just going to have to wait a little bit because I ran a secret poll over on my Patreon, and a certain little red symbiote won out the votes. But if you want to check out the second part of this Ultimate Spider-Man's video before it's on YouTube, check out my Patreon where you'll get early access to it. And before I get started, leave a like and subscribe for comic videos just like this. Released in 2004, written by Brian Michael Bendis with art by Mark Bagley, this is Ultimate Spider-Man Carnage. The book begins with the lizard springing out of the darkness. I bet you're glad I made that little interlude video about the Ultimate Lizard's origins, because it sure as shit is not in the Ultimate Spider-Man comic series. It's in a spin-off. 1 issue to be exact, and I covered it. Check that one out. The lizard moves lizardly around as Spider-Man attempts to fend off the creature, but the monster escapes the lab in which they were fighting and makes his way to the former home of Dr. Curtis Connors. The lizard smashes its way into the home and slinks upstairs to Timmy Connors' room, where the boy violently meets his demise. Then Kurt Connors wakes up in the middle of the night in his hotel room, and I went to the Marvel Wiki page just because I was interested in seeing, like, you know, what characters were in this in case I missed anything to bring up. For some reason, the lizard in this dream is, they have decided on the fan wiki that that is an alternate reality. I don't know why, because this is clearly a dream. It's not another universe. It's not Kurt Connors visioning into another reality like Wolverine was doing in that video I covered last month. It's a dream. And I went to the page edits history, and I was like, maybe it came, like, somebody went through the fucking whole Marvel Universe wiki fandom and went to each page where there's a dream alternate reality after Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, where America Chavez outright says, dreams are alternate realities. No, that is not what happened, because that was changed, 3 years ago, 2 years, or a year before Multiverse of Madness even came out? Why? Why did this person decide that instead of just leaving it as the lizard, parentheses, dream, or something like that, they decided to make an alternate reality for it? Anyway, Kurt Connors wakes up and jumps out of bed and calls his wife to ask if his son is okay. His ex-wife chastises him for calling so late, and then Kurt overhears someone else in the background, and he apologizes for his outburst. Then he hangs up and reads the letter that was sent to him by Jim Rhodes of Stark International regarding the grant given to him in his research lab, and the upcoming presentation to determine if any research results have been made, whether or not they're going to get their money renewed. It's pretty much the exact same problem he was facing in his origin in that Marvel Team-Up spin-off issue that I covered. Elsewhere, Spider-Man swings through the city as rain drenches his suit, and he follows a parade of police to a museum. Captain Jean DeWolf makes an announcement to the criminal inside, because this is a hostage situation. Meanwhile, indoors, the supercriminal known as the Gladiator makes his demands that a 16th century emperor, Nurhachi, is to be freed. Then Spider-Man shows up, and Gladiator lets loose dozens of razor-sharp blades from his gauntlets and begins fighting Spider-Man throughout the museum. They destroy dozens of priceless relics in the process until Spidey is able to web Gladiator's face for just long enough until he beats his head in with a metal bollard. Then SWAT bust in and order everyone to the ground, including Spider-Man. DeWolf angrily orders her men to put their goddamn guns down and introduces herself to Spider-Man. The hostages repeatedly tell the police that the hero saved them, and Spidey, holding on to his injured chest, tells the cops that he's allergic to jail and escapes. Later in the night, Dr. Connors arrives at his lab at Empire State University, where he finds Peter Parker in a lot of pain. Peter reminds him that Kurt owes him one for the whole lizard situation, and Kurt reluctantly begins patching the young man up. After he's done, Peter asks how he's doing. Kurt says that he still checks his DNA strands every week. The lizard DNA, while it is isolated and dormant, is still within him. So he's not doing great. He is constantly paranoid that at any second he is going to lizard out. But Peter tells him that what Kurt was doing was altruistic. He wasn't doing it to become a giant lizard monster. He was doing it to help people. And Peter knows plenty about crazy people who just want to turn themselves into monsters. And he says that Kurt Connors is not that person. So Kurt helps Peter up as Pearly nearly coughs up a lung from being out in the rain all night and wearing a soaking wet suit. Kurt offers to drive him home, but Peter tells him that he's way faster than a car in New York City. And then Kurt offers the boy a sweatshirt to keep warm, and Peter heads out. Kurt starts to clean up when he stops and takes a look at a blood-soaked cotton ball. He sets it down and retrieves a glass slide, inserts the cotton ball, and takes it to his high-tech microscope. And a smirk appears on his face. The next day, Peter lies in bed with a terrible fever and cough. Aunt May finds him and says that he's staying home today. Peter tries to get up because he has midterms, but she is not having it. Then she goes to tell Gwen Stacy that she'll need to pick up Peter's homework from his classes today and heads downstairs to get some medicine. Gwen slinks into Peter's room and asks if he's really sick or if this is a whole Spider-Man ploy that he's doing. But she sees how haggard he is when he asks her to tell MJ that he's sorry that he can't make it today. She smiles and tells him to just chill out and get better and get some rest. And then Peter falls back asleep, wondering how all the supervillains will make it through the day without him. Later that morning at Empire State University, Ben Reilly is called out by a campus security guard. That's right, Ben Reilly exists in the Ultimate Universe. No, it's not that Ben Reilly. It is a completely different Ben Reilly, who's a black guy who just happens to have the same name as normal in Ben Reilly. This Ben Reilly is not a clone of Peter Parker, obviously. He is a scientist and associate lab partner, lab assistant of Dr. Kurt Connors at the Institute. Ben and the security guard speak about Dr. Kurt Connors, who checked in the lab last night around 11 p.m., but never checked out. Then Dr. Reilly makes his way to the lab, where he finds Kurt asleep at his desk. And then Ben takes a peek at whatever Kurt was working on, and the results shock him. This one simple trick will leave scientists shocked. He wakes Kurt up and asks what was on the slide in the microscope. Kurt tells him it's nothing. Well, it'll be something, but not yet. He just needs to work on it some more. And Ben says that it looks like the perfect strain of human DNA. Kurt asks Ben not to tell anyone about this and that he'll clean up and get out of the lab. Later that day, Peter lies in the living room watching mindless daytime television when the phone rings. He answers to Kurt Connors. Kurt asks to meet and talk, and Peter explains that he's sick and actually stayed home today. Kurt suggests that he go to Peter's house, but Peter cannot risk that and tells Connors that he'll be over within an hour. Later, at the ESU Starbucks, Kurt and Peter sit speaking quietly. Now, I don't want you to be mad.
Oh, no.
When I put you back together last night, you left some blood.
What did you do?
Nothing. No. Listen, I saw it there, and I couldn't help but look at it.
What?
Examine it under the microscope.
Am I okay?
What?
What? Am I dying?
No. You're fine. In fact, it's amazing. It's staggering. Your DNA sequences are like nothing anyone has ever seen before.
Shh. Be quiet.
How did you get your powers again?
It's a whole thing. I don't want to get into it.
Can you? You think you could? I know you're quite a little science whiz, but does this make any sense to you? That is a normal person's DNA sequence, and that's yours. Whatever made you, Peter, however you became you, this is an amazing scientific find. This is more than just you getting superpowers. This might be a real breakthrough in genetics.
You know, I always did kind of wonder what kind of ramifications this might have. You know, in college, when I don't know, I have more time and resources or something. I was hoping to look into it. But to be honest, part of me is scared about what I'd find.
That's what I wanted to talk to you about. I want your permission to run some experiments.
Experiments? On me?
No. On your sample. Something happened to you on a genetic level that made you more than most people could ever dream of becoming. And with DNA research where it is, well, maybe what happened to you could help others. Gene therapy experiments, stem cell research that could cure illness and fight disease, cancer, diabetes, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's.
My dad, before he died, he dedicated his life to curing cancer.
I know. And I know something when I see it, Peter. And yes, I have been close to genetic breakthroughs before, and I've had disastrous results. I'll be the first to admit that. But that's why I'm being so cautious. I'm trying to be realistic. But I need this, frankly. This may be hard for someone your age to understand, but I am at the end of my rope. But now that I stumbled across this, I feel like there's hope. Like I may be able to discover something about my condition, and maybe even cure it.
How would you explain where you got the DNA from?
A lab accident, surprising side effect from another experiment. It happens all the time. That's why stem cell research and cloning is so controversial.
Dr. Connors, what are you asking me exactly?
For me to take your DNA without telling you and start poking around in it would be unethical. It is yours, not mine. So, I am asking permission. Anything I find, it's ours, split right down the middle. If I find nothing, well, that's yours too. But this could take years, Peter. Years and years. And you might very well be one of my students at the university by the time anything comes of this. But we have to try. It's almost our responsibility.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Excellent. 2 months later, the Punisher's in a shootout with Boomerang. Spider-Man takes Boomerang out of the line of fire and webs up Punisher's Uzis and breaks the barrels and webs him up something special. Then Boomerang rocks up and offers Spider-Man half the loot he scored after saving his ass. And later, Spidey laughs and watches as the police arrive to find both the Punisher and Boomerang all webbed up. Then he notices that he must have been grazed by a bullet and heads to Connors' lab. Kurt again patches Peter up because it makes MJ nauseous when she has to do it, and they catch up for a little bit. And Peter notes that Kurt seems healthier and happier since the last time they met. Kurt tells him that the research money for the year was renewed, thanks in part to their little arrangement. And Peter asks to see what they've gotten done so far, but Kurt says that they'll have to do it tomorrow because he's having dinner with his kid tonight. He finishes up and Peter apologizes again. Kurt asks if he got hurt saving somebody's life, and when Peter says that he did, Kurt smiles and tells the boy not to worry about it. Then Spidey climbs out and swings away. And Kurt cleans the area, and then makes his way to a locked door at the rear of the lab. And he enters the key card and heads inside to find Ben Reilly alone. Kurt says that he's heading out for the night and he just wanted to see how everything's going. Ben tells him that everything is smooth and operational. But Ben thinks that they'll need to up the temperature for the next incubation stage. He also says that he'll walk Kurt out since he wants to go grab some food, and then the two leave the lab, as a grenadine hand forms from a cloudy, dark sludge within a large tube, and a horrific, fiery, cinder-black and red entity flows through the cloud and gazes out of the glass with burning eyes. This episode is brought to you by my comics, specifically the Custodians Agents of Cross, which I am serializing over on my Patreon, patreon.com/Smokey's videos. It's over 60 pages of pure comics for only $15, but you can see it serialized weekly over on my Patreon for as little as $2. It is a love letter to the Silver Age filled with fun characters, crazy stories, and even fake advertisements. I'm also serializing each issue of Destructo Boy, a fun sci-fi zany epic that is fit for the whole family and follows a little robot on a giant space station as he battles crime, villainy, and giant monsters and whatever threats should arise to his home. Each weekly serialized post includes commentary and annotations on the comic. I am also posting commentary tracks for the MCU, the Snyderverse, and any movies in general over at Pop Pop Popcorn, which I will be posting a audio commentary track of any movie and a follow-up discussion video. There's also behind-the-scenes progress posts of The Custodians as I'm working on it, original art, and much more. The next day, as the sun sets in New York City, Dr. Riley returns to the lab and quickly discovers that the incubation tank lid has come off, and the little experiment that they dubbed Little Ben is gone. He calls up Connors, asking if he took Little Ben. Connors says that he did no such thing, and Ben freaks out, trying to figure out who would steal their experiment from the incubator and why. Connors suggests industrial espionage and asks Ben if he told anybody about the experiment, but Ben says that he never told a soul, and then a scream comes from outside the lab. Ben races down the hall to the stairwell and discovers a decayed body of a security guard who had been drained of all of his bodily fluids.
Did you hear about the party at Tyler's this weekend? Let's hit up Abercrombie.
Oh my god, it's true. When Stacy's at the mall, I thought I was hallucinating.
I needed socks. Where else do you get socks? It's a conspiracy. And, what on earth are you dressed as exactly?
I'm a fry girl at Big Easy Cajun.
Oh, I am so sorry.
I need money. Since my dad left, you know, and it keeps me busy when Peter is out. I just realized I don't think we've really talked since you found out. It's cool, you know, though. I never really had anyone to talk about it. You know, one time, I got in the middle of it. One of his villains. I almost died.
No way.
Peter saved me, but yeah, kinda scared me. But I'm okay now.
It never occurred to me that we might be in danger.
Or not. Not really, I mean. Yeah, you could, like, get mugged walking to the bus or something. Stuff happens.
You know what? I kind of like Peter more now that I know he's you-know-who. I mean, not like. I know there's been, like, some tension between you guys because of me living in his house, but, he adores you. Doesn't even look twice at me. He doesn't even do that thing guys do where they check out my butt when I walk by. He's like my little brother, my little superhero brother. There's a lot of things to worry about, MJ, but me and Peter is not one of them.
Okay.
I don't even know if I like boys.
Are you messing with me?
Yeah.
You are such a freak.
You thought I was going to break up with you because I didn't like the movie.
Well, you seemed angry.
Lewis, that's so stupid I can't even...
Gah!
What is that?
A kid? They look hurt.
Should we help? Hello? Are you okay?
So we'll call the cops.
Oh my god! Ah, no! No! Please, please! Somebody help me!
That's the nicest thing.
I totally love you. I have loved you for a very long time.
And this was the outcome.
And who you are.
Ugh, forgot my key. Idiot. I hope Peter left his secret spider hatch unlocked. Come on, man! Hello? Peter? Who's there?
Later at the Daily Bugle, Peter celebrates that J. Jonah Jameson has finally released an article that isn't anti-Spider-Man when the phone rings. It's Aunt May. Through his tears and wretched anger, Peter web swings home, where he finds an all too familiar sight. He crosses past the police line and discovers a body beneath a blanket in the backyard, and Aunt May answers questions to the officers. She spots her nephew and races over to him, and the detective begins asking Peter questions, and Aunt May yells at him for inferring that Peter had anything to do with what happened to Gwen. Then Captain Gene DeWolf arrives, and informs another detective that they had a similar case like this today at Empire State University, and another with a couple in Manhattan, and they inspect the body and find the same puncture wounds in the exact same areas. Peter asks if he can go inside. Peter rushes downstairs, rips open his backpack, and screams into his costume. Later that night, Peter and Aunt May are at the Watson residence. May tries to get in touch with Gwen's mother, but someone else answers the only number that they had to reach her. Aunt May tells the person to tell Gwen's mother that the daughter she abandoned is dead, and hangs up before silently walking away after getting into an argument with the person on the other end. MJ's mother offers to let them stay for as long as they need. Peter quietly thanks her and sits in silence. Later that night, MJ brings Peter a pillow for the pull-out couch, and she tells him that she hid his costume up in the closet, and she wishes that he could sleep with her in her room. Then she asks if this is Spider-Man related, and Peter says that he doesn't know. He just tells her that he loves her, and she repeats the sentiment. Then MJ tells him about the conversation that she and Gwen had at the mall. I didn't think I was a good friend to her at all.
You were.
What's the point of all the crap I go through? Trying to help people if I can't stop the people that I love.
Peter, it's not your fault.
Later in the evening, Peter sits wide awake, attempting to figure out who could have killed Gwen. And then he looks out the window and sees Dr. Connors standing outside of his home. Peter marches across the street and clocks Connors in the jaw and demands to know what he did, what kind of monster he turned himself into this time. We spliced together some DNA strands for experimentation about 40 different genetic equations, but we inadvertently created a rejuvenating organism, and it disappeared. One of the experiments, we took your DNA and some of mine to see if my codes could learn from yours, but it wasn't working. So we dug up some of your father's notes, and all of your father's work was in cellular reconstruction, so we spliced them to see if the healing— Shut up! Just shut up! All that garbage you told me about morals and responsibility, and then you go and do this! You don't understand, we were so close! The organism, it was growing, self-replicating. And it escaped! And it killed people! It killed Gwen, and it came here, and it killed Gwen! Oh, God. I swear I was calling to tell you. I was calling to warn you, but you didn't answer, so I came here to make sure you were okay. And I don't understand what happened. I don't know how this could have happened. You mixed my genetically altered DNA with your genetically altered DNA using my father's stolen work just to see what would happen?
What is it? What does it do?
I don't know what that is. The last time I saw it, it was the size of a gerbil. I don't even know what we're looking at. Get back in your car and to your lab and figure out a way to kill it. Because if you don't, I'm throwing you in the room with it and locking the door. Hey, shut the hell up. It's 4 a.m. Peter battles the pseudo-symbiote through the neighborhood and into the city as he wonders how he's supposed to fight a mutated clone of himself that seemingly has no understandable or knowable wants or desires. The fight ends up on a rooftop where the creature that I'll call... I don't know. What do I call this thing? They haven't given it a name. It's pretty violent and causes a lot of death and destruction. I guess I'll call it Carnage. Does that sound good? I guess Carnage is what I'll call it. The Carnage creature stops and silently makes its way off of the roof and down into the street where it attempts to kill 2 police officers. Peter tries to stop it, but the creature tosses him into traffic and quickly kills the cops, absorbing all of their life essence until the creature resembles an older, ripped Peter Parker. A figure that resembles almost exactly his father, Richard. Later that night, Connors finally arrives at his lab where he finds Peter waiting for him. Peter explains in a flashback that after the creature formed into a doppelganger of his father, it went after Peter, completely ignoring anything or anyone else. Peter suggests that maybe it went directly after him because they share DNA, and also that the creature has to constantly rebuild its DNA matrix, which is why it's always absorbing and feeding off of humans. Peter fought the creature through the city, eventually ending up in a factory where the living virus that is Carnage, and he fought to the top of a smokestack. Peter tricked it by appearing to have jumped into the stack, but lingered against the inner wall, as the creature fell deep within the molten pit below, where it perished completely. And even later that night, Kurt Connors arrives at the police station and announces to Captain Gene DeWolf that he is the reason 3 people were killed. At 7:42 a.m. the next day, MJ finds Peter alone and awake in the living room, and he tells her that he's done being Spider-Man. Spider-Man is no more! At the same time, Dr. Ben Reilly arrives at the lab to find the police ransacking the place. The police explain that Connors told them everything, and they are closing down the lab completely, meaning he's out of the job. Ben asks if he can at least collect his belongings, and they agree. But as he does so, he sneaks to a refrigerator unit and collects a vial marked Parker Sample Number 2. A week later, on a Friday, Peter and MJ clean out Gwen's locker. The principal tells Peter that if he ever needs to speak to anyone, his office is always a safe space for him to go to. Peter thanks him and the principal leaves them to it. Inside, the two find a photo of Gwen, MJ, and Peter together, taped on the inside of the door. Peter has to stop and collect himself when none other than Flash Thompson walks up. He asks if they're getting ready to have a garage sale, and Liz tells Flash to go away, and Flash says, "Hey, by the way, Ski, great job keeping an eye on her, Parker. Well done."
Take it back. Take it back,
Oh,
Flash.
she's gone crazy!
Stop it. Stop it.
The next day, Peter, MJ, Liz Al, and Flash Thompson and Kong sit in detention. Flash and Kong talk about how bored they are, MJ and Liz lament missing work for this, and Peter just sits there silently. Flash blames MJ for getting them all into this, and then asks why little Parker is acting like he's a vegetable. Oh my god, no one thinks you're cool, dude. I think he's dead too.
What the hell is wrong with you?
God.
Dude.
You're deranged. You're the whole reason we're stuck here and you still don't get it.
What did I do? MJ proceeds to chastise Flash by asking him what truly makes him act this way. Especially since someone died. Not just any someone, a girl that he knew personally is dead. And he is acting like this. He just keeps busting on everyone. But then, when Flash blows her off, she comes up with a realization. Flash had a... I don't know if you can hear that, but I fucking hate car culture. No one thinks you're cool, dude. MJ comes to the realization that Flash had a crush on Gwen. All those times that Flash was trying to get Peter alone in previous issues, it was because he was trying to tell Peter that either A, he liked Gwen, or B, to get some advice and have Peter let her know that he liked her. But Peter kept blowing him off because he didn't want to talk to him because he figured he'd get bullied or something. Flash then shouts at MJ to shut up and barges out of the room. 3 hours later, Kong makes the wild assumption that Flash isn't coming back. And then he says that Flash really isn't a bad guy. And Peter speaks for the first time all day when he says, "Yes, he is. I've known Flash since I was 7. I've met a lot of bad people. And he is a bad person. Sure, now he's just one of those guys who likes to bust on everyone, but he's gonna grow up. He's going to grow up and become a man, and because you have rewarded him for his behavior year after year after year, because his parents don't seem to care, because all he knows now is that it's okay to act this way. He's gonna grow up and be a full-grown, greedy, mean, selfish liar. And the world is full of him. The world is run by him. And that's why Gwen is dead. Why Harry is gone. Why a half of us don't have parents. Because good people don't get to be happy. And sometimes they don't get to live. Am I one of those people? You're best friends with someone who treats you like crap, Kong. He hangs around with you because he wants to make himself feel superior. But you are 10 times the guy he is. But you just let him treat you like crap. What kind of person are you? I'm nothing.
What about Spider-Man?
Are we allowed to just leave?
I don't think so.
Peter makes his way outside into the roof, where MJ is unable to get to. She apologizes, and Peter tells her that he's not mad at her, he's mad at himself. It's all just too much. He's failed too many people. And MJ tells him that not everything in the world is his fault. Peter says that he wanted to make a difference, but he can't even help the people that are around him. And all that being Spider-Man has granted him is a front row seat to see how shitty and awful the world really is. If it wasn't for Spider-Man, he'd have the blissful ignorance of a teenage in his youth. But instead, he doesn't. He has this life. MJ says that she'll know that it'll get better because people like Peter Parker exist. But Peter walks off and leaps away. He runs through the city over the rooftops until he hears a woman screaming. A group of thugs are holding her at knife point and trying to steal her purse and do worse. Then Peter swings down, covering his face with a makeshift mask. He kicks one of them in the ribs, no doubt breaking him, and slams another into a brick wall before pulling him by the hair and snatching the third by the throat. He then holds them up a couple feet in the air against the wall, his grip slowly tightening as he tells them that today is the day that they change their lives. Then he lifts them over to the woman and orders them to apologize. And after they do, all three scurry away in fear. And the woman hugs Peter and thanks him. Peter hugs her back and closes his eyes, no doubt imagining that it's Gwen he's hugging. And he races up the building and onto the roof, where he removes the mask, takes a deep breath, and looks over the city, and apologizes to Gwen Stacy. The end. I hope you enjoyed this video. It's downer. It's a very sad story arc. It happens so quickly. It's Ultimate Carnage. What do you think of Ultimate Carnage? I really like it. I think it's a neat design look. It's based off of what Mark Bagley wanted Carnage to originally look like, which was more fluidy and whatnot. That's also why Venom looked that way originally as well, which I really like. I love how wispy Carnage is. It doesn't make sense physically for this entity to be formed to begin with, but it also doesn't make sense how it seemingly just moves through the air like hair underwater, you know? Like, I assume that that's what it would look like in live action, and I just think it's a really cool design. I love the glowing, fiery yellows it has. I just think Ultimate Carnage, this version, stands out a lot more than regular Carnage does. And, you know, I'm not somebody who digs the symbiotes either, but I really enjoy this arc. I love the horror-themed aspect of it. It almost feels like a horror special of like your normal, like I've talked about this before. I love whenever shows or something have like a special Halloween episode and suddenly everything gets really spooky. The one that I think of a lot from my childhood was Boy Meets World, where they had a Halloween special, which was all the kids in detention in the library as they are murdered one by one. And it was aired on the Disney Channel, and I watched it way too young, but I was still like, this is fucking awesome. It's like a Scream parody, too, that they're doing. It's insane that they did that on Boy Meets World. But I mean, like, Boy Meets World did a lot of crazy shit. Like, that's a weird show. I don't know why I'm talking about this all of a sudden. But this story arc is awesome. Like I said, I love the horror-themed aspect of it. It just has great atmosphere throughout the whole thing. Nearly all, pretty much, 5 of the 6 issues, it is raining, it is overcast, it's at night, or it's just all around dark. And then finally, in the detention story, at the very end, once Peter sort of comes to terms with what has happened, we see in the final panels that while the sky is cloudy, it has begun to clear up. And then, of course, the next couple issues after this, we get a little bit of a breather with Wolverine and Peter switching bodies, and what else does he come up with? He hangs out with Doctor Strange for a little bit, I think. But this is a great arc, I personally think. It's the death of Gwen Stacy. The ultimate storyline in any Spider-Man mythos is the death of Gwen Stacy. We knew it was coming when she was introduced to the series. How could you not kill her off in some way? They do a fake out in the first volume where they have Brian Michael Bendis and Mark Bagley. They replace MJ with Gwen, where the Green Goblin takes her to the top of the bridge, and you think, oh shit, they're gonna kill off MJ. But you gotta have it, I think, if you're doing something like this. Unless it's that Mexican Spider-Man, where there's that dream world where Peter and Gwen actually get married, which I love the cover of. That's a fantastic cover. Here it is right here. Hopefully I remember to put that in. But it is quick and to the point, this Ultimate Universe version, which just goes all in on what the Ultimate Universe they wanted it to be. More realistic in a way, more grounded. There's no grandeur, there's no fanfare in her death like the original was. She's not hoisted atop the almighty bridge of New York and cast asunder like in a Greek play. She is cornered by a monster in the darkness, alone, and dies alone in fear. It is quick, and it just happens all of a sudden like death normally does. I guess you could say in a way it's realistic that way. I enjoy Peter's turmoil. Like I mentioned earlier, he would have had a normal life. He wouldn't have known anything about what was happening in the world with Osborn, Doc Ock, Venom, etc. All the shit he does with Nick Fury involved. He would have never experienced that if he had never become Spider-Man, but instead he has, and he will never get to live a normal life, no matter how much he dreams and hopes of it, no matter how much MJ dreams and hopes of it, because unfortunately we know where this story is going. And if you don't, it is a sad destination. But I think that this is a great issue, or storyline. I really enjoy it. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below. Let me know if you have any suggestions. As always, check out my Patreon. Check it out for the early access to the second part, Ultimate Spider-Man versus the Ultimate Universe, Ultimate Marvel Universe. Check out my Patreon for the second part of this. Technically, it's not related in any way. It's just the next story issues. Ultimate Spider-Man versus the Ultimate Marvel Universe is what I'm thinking of titling it. That'll be available there. Like I said, it covers one of my least favorite storylines. Wolverine and Peter Parker switching brains. I'm going to have a lot to say about that. It also covers Human Torch. Peter and Human Torch are introduced to each other. They become friends. And a weird one with Doctor Strange. It's just an odd story. But I will see you guys next time for more carnagey goodness. Bye. Okay. Oh, that is that is gonna be tough on the lungs.